Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, conversations with my sister, Ebonie. We're going to do things a little different.
Why not?
I think it's time for you to take the wheel.
I mean, Jesus got it. Let's go.
Jesus got it.
Let's roll.
All right, Jesus got it. Ebonie got it. Take it away, sis.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I want to talk about coming back to yourself. Okay. So I've been on like this very interesting journey like the last 3 weeks, where I decided I wanted to try something a little different. So what I've been doing, I wake up at like 4:45, 5 in the morning, and the first thing I do is I meditate. So I do like a 10-minute meditation, and then that's followed by like 10 minutes, like 10 to 15 minute like morning stretch, and then that's followed by like about 10 to 15 minutes of like just journaling, like how I feel and all the things that I don't typically do with my life.
This is very
like
true.
expressing emotions and just tapping in with myself. And then I go and work out, and then I like do a 10-mile walk, and then I go to work. And then at the end of the workday, I'll like find some type of hobby I want to do. So right now it's jujitsu, so I'll go to jujitsu. I'll come home, I'll eat dinner, I'll take a shower and wash my face. Then I'll eat dinner, and then I'll like do it all over again. So I'll like stretch. I'll journal, just think about how my day was. I'll meditate. I'll actually sleep meditate. It's made my sleep so amazing. And then I just find that like since I've started doing this, I feel really centered and like happy and like really wanting to be alone all the time.
Yeah.
Like and just really enjoying and embracing that. And I was just kind of like getting in this situation where I'm starting to realize like I like where I am right now, and I'm also becoming super protective of it and the people that I'm allowing in my life right now. And I realize that as I've started doing this, like distractions start popping up. Like people you haven't talked to in a long time start popping up, and like all these things where I'm like, wow, you're getting me away from wanting to like. It's kind of like it feels like you're taking me away from this like world that I've really started to love and enjoy, and bring me back to like a world where I just am kind of distant from myself. And it's just fascinating. 'Cause I'm like, I feel like things are being brought to me like as a test.
Yeah.
So have you been through this?
Yeah. Which season? Which year?
I'm just new to this.
Which
so
year?
I don't know.
Well, first of all, I'm super proud of you because you have been on like it's not even a game, like it's like a mindset. It's something that when you make a decision that it's time to try something a little different if you want to get different results. That the actual doing part is very difficult. Like that first, I always say day one of anything obviously is the most difficult, but I also think of day one as like, when you've really made your mind up to change your life and change your mind, day one is so beautiful and invigorating because it really does feel like the beginning of the rest of your life. Because even if you're not necessarily doing 10-mile walks every single day for the rest of your life, there is this iteration of this is what you needed to do in order to get to where you're going. So I'll say that I'm just extremely proud of you. I was talking to the ancestors like, Lord. I was talking to the ancestors because I know I'm familiar. It's so weird because we're 7 years apart. So it's kind of like when I say, you can't lie to me because you say you lie the same way that I would lie. So I always know when you're lying. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Is she trying to use my tactics on me? Like, there's really nothing. We're different, but we're the same a lot. So it's like there's nothing that you're doing that I'm like completely foreign to in concept. Now I don't know your life like that, but it's not like a foreign concept to me. But that being said, I think that first of all, my first thought was Alex from Summer House your motivation to getting on this journey? I'm just kidding.
A little bit. I kind of saw that in me. I'm not in back of nice cars with big bottles of alcohol, but I guess in back of an Uber maybe. Yeah, no, not quite.
No, but seriously, so in terms of distractions, yes. Anytime you make up your mind to change your life or the way that you're living your life, then absolutely anticipate distractions. Because one, there is this sense that I'm going to say it this way, although I don't literally mean it this way, but some people see your success as their failures. it's the same mindset as what people will see, like if you changed your life based on the life that we used to like live and enjoy together, then there's something wrong with me continuing down the same path because you're rejecting who we were together. And it's really not that. I think I've gone through seasons with people who have decided to change their lives for what they consider to be the better. And if we are able to continue to, have a relationship of some sort moving forward, that's great. But I also respect that sometimes people are reason, season, lifetime.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. We've talked about this before, but yeah, no, it definitely does feel like there's like a little test on your way of like,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to go back to what you're doing or go back to that? And it's just like, I'm not really happy in that. Like right now, I feel like you're taking away from time that I want to spend by myself, and like
Yeah.
and do some watercolors and just play some music and journal, which is not something I thought I'd really get into, but I'm kind of killing it. Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
writing game's kind of strong.
So you've kind of been a lone ranger, although that's not necessarily what you always want to be. But how do you feel, in terms of like spending more time with yourself and like really protecting that space?
I think yeah, I like being alone. But also it's like growing up, I was now this is like therapy. Like
Yeah.
growing up, like I mean, think about it. Everyone left the house by the time I made it to high school, so I was always like coming home alone and just always kind of by myself. So I've gotten used to that. But then there's the being alone because that's just the situation you're in. And there's the being alone because that's what you choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now I'm in that point where I'm like, this is what I choose to do, and I love it because I just have so much happiness because I'm not being trauma dumped, like getting that trauma dump from other people or dealing with someone else's bad day. That like I just now I'm like, if I have a win, like for example, yesterday I hit you up, I'm like, I'm having a win right now.
Yeah.
This
A
happened,
huge
this
win.
happened, this is so great, and like I'm really enjoying things right now. And then I sat there and was like, I'm going to enjoy this moment and not invite anyone else into the space because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to hear it. Like I just want to enjoy this feeling of feeling like I've done something right and feeling complete about something I started. And I like it. Like it almost scares me how much I like it. I'm like I can do this forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just stay in this little box that I've created. But it's also good because I'm like realizing like sometimes like I do cope with like hanging out with people and doing all that, but sometimes it's not the best way. Like you're
Yeah.
just kind of deflecting from what you need to deal with. So like staying home and doing some paints like a paint set and stuff has just been nice to me, listening to music, finding new music, and watching The Office for like the 18th time in a month. Has just been really nice, and I find that like I watch The Office because like I'm not trying to invite anything new into my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
like watching,
consistent. It's
yeah,
like comfort.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like watching a new series on something just seems like it's gonna add something else that I don't feel like dealing with at this point, and I just want to process things and just be able to take one thing at a time. So right now, just adding a TV show with a plot line, just like no, that's too much. Like so, I'm
Yeah.
like very much in this very nice like centered spot where I kind of know what I want to do, and I feel comfortable with everything. My emotions are in check, and I don't feel like someone can just kind of throw me off easily anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called that time in my life that I feel like is familiar to what you're experiencing, my Sacramento. For those of you who have been following me for a while, I lived in Sacramento for about a year and some change. And actually, this room is like a mini Sacramento because all the art pieces and the aesthetic was what I had up in Sacramento. So I created that here as my place of serenity because when I went to Sacramento and worked there for a year, I mean, I made connections with people, and I to this day, I still speak to some of those people, maybe once a year, once every other year. But I did not have a friend group. Like no one really knew me, and I was kind of just going to work and then doing my thing. And that year, there was so much solitude and clarity and beauty, and I was doing all of those things. I was waking up at 4 a.m. mainly because my job started at 5. But I was waking up at 4 a.m. I was meditating. I was doing all the things, and it really made me come back to myself because before that I had really gone into a spiral of toxicity, and I was running away from myself because I had gone through this divorce and I had lost a lot of people along the way, and I lost a sense of myself. And so I was kind of trying to find myself in all of these other people and all of these other distractions so that I wouldn't have to address what the real issue was, is that I was so far from center. And it was one of the happiest years of my life. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been clear and silent enough to hear the calls that I needed to hear, because I was in that solitude and because I was so clear. That's when it was very clear to me. Like, I remember waking up and just being like, I have to resign from my job. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If I resign from my job and I come up with this plan, then in a year I am going to have my dream job. It was all so clear because all the distractions were taken away. So do you feel like you're getting like messaging and stuff by being alone?
I am not resigning from my job. No,
No.
but yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like, a really good example is I've been saying how I'm going back to school right now. I finished. So I finished the course, I got
Congratulations.
certification, blah, blah, blah. And then what's nice about it is usually when like I'm getting a new job, I'm transferring over to a different area, blah, blah, blah. There's that stress of learning and all that stuff. And just because I kind of knew everything in the situation, I felt good about everything. I felt confident. I was putting out a couple of things that were doing well with our system. That like now I woke up this morning and was like, I have no meetings. Like, things are beautiful. I'm gonna take a couple extra miles in this 10-mile walk today. I'm going to do this, and it just kind of cleared up of like, I'm confident. I'm confident in what I can do, and I just feel good about it, and I feel like I'm in such a good place. Also, with the transition to a new job, I have this flexibility now where I don't have to be on from 9 to 5 anymore. And previously, I was a very reactionary person, or position was very reactionary to clients and all that stuff, and that's taken away. So now it's just, here's a project, here's a deadline, do it on your own time. So for me, that's like the most ideal situation for me. Like, I don't like being reactionary. I like having things planned out and doing all that. But had I been in a space where I was just kind of all over the place, this would have been really overwhelming to me. And like, I feel like stepping back and really looking at it, it's amazing. Like, this is exactly what I was looking for. I can travel again and not have to worry about what time zone I'm in. And I just had this certain freedom. But also, it's like, I just learned how to become a front end developer, and I have my degrees in exercise science. Like,
Yeah.
so like, it just kind of like, I was like, I'm winning. Like, I'm doing things right. Like, if I want to do something, I can do it. And I think any other time I'd be like, all right, well, I learned it. Now what do I do? Da da da. Now I'm just like, nah, I got
Yeah.
this. It's all good.
Well, I think
Like,
there's also something to the power of surrender. And, you're in your mid 30s now. And so a lot of that comes with maturity. And why do you always
it's
hate when I
just,
talk about how old you
oh
are?
man, it's just,
Well,
it happens so fast.
well, yes, it does. It all happens very fast. But a lot of that comes with maturity. It comes with experience, which is absolutely the best teacher. So, sometimes when you look back on things, it's like, why didn't I do this earlier? And then it's like, I didn't have the tools to do this earlier. Like, I wouldn't have had the appreciation of what it was if I did it earlier. But my question is, do you feel like there was a certain catalyst that made you feel like, okay, tomorrow is going to be the first day of the rest of my life?
I think it was like, if I want to experience something new, I have to do new things. So like, I can't continue to like do the same things I'm doing over and over again. So I think for me, I'm like, I was kind of looked at myself and was like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't excited to go to work. I wasn't excited to work out. Like, nothing excited me. And I was like, I can't quite figure out what's going on with me, but like, I just feel off. Like, I don't feel like I'm my usual self. And like, I feel like I was kind of masking things a lot and just distancing myself from myself. That
Mm-hmm.
like, at some point, I'm just like, I kind of like miss myself. And like, I just really, I can't explain it. It was one of those things where I started listening to audiobooks and I was like, oh, okay, so like meditation might help. That's cool. I love the exercise. It's never been an issue with me, but like, it just didn't excite me, so I didn't want to do it. Like, and that says a lot for me because I've been someone who's just always been active or doing something my whole life. So like, the fact that I was waking up and it was just like, I don't want to work out, was just really different for me. So I think I just started noticing like there were certain things where I was really getting far away from like what I usually do and who I am, that like I needed to find a way back home.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was like a certain moment, but I just knew that like I was like, I got to change something and I got to
Yeah.
get back and like figure this out. Otherwise, I'm gonna drive myself crazy.
Yeah, I think when you say find your way back home, what I think for me personally, some of the battles of when I've woken up, and again, there's been several iterations of this. You know, it happens for me every like probably 7 years, where I just have a complete change. You know, because you get it's like you start to you get the first day of the rest of your life and it elevates you, and then you are in this ascension, and then you're winning and you're like, you know, discovering all these things, and like then it's either you become complacent, or you know, life gets in the way, or you know, there's just these curveballs. And so sometimes when you're not paying attention because it's not as active, it's not as conscious anymore, then sometimes you tend to fall off a little bit. And sometimes falling off isn't a bad thing because it's meant to steer you in a different direction. You know, like if you hadn't had a couple of quote unquote fall offs, then you would likely still be in sports science, or you would be working for, you know, some of the companies that you've worked for in the past. And because you've had to come up with different versions of yourself, it's brought you to these levels with a vast array of knowledge in a lot of different fields. So, I mean, you're like a true renaissance person. Like you really are. So, I think when I think about my reluctancy to like come back home, sometimes what hinders me is the embarrassment of getting so far away from home. And it's not the embarrassment from others, it's the embarrassment from myself. Because I'm like, when I entered this house, you know, the last time, or when I was in this place the last time, I was here and now I'm coming back like tail tucked. That's how I feel sometimes. Like, man, I really fell off. I got to get my life together. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think
I
we're,
think so.
you know, we can be a little self deprecating at times, but I also think that our ability to be self critical um, makes us not narcissists.
I think I'm the other end. I'm very much a self-deprecating person. Like
Yeah.
I do it like, and I kind of do it to tend to like throw it off from the situation. But I realize like now that I'm really into journaling and stuff, it's like I try to find something positive every day. So like today I was like, I benched 135 pounds today.
Yeah.
Do I need to bench 135? No, I don't need to bench press
Yeah.
135 pounds. That's
Probably not.
unnecessary. I
I
am
am
too
your
old for this.
emergency
I am
contact.
too old for this. But like every day, like that's what I find myself writing. Like, what are you proud of today? Like, what did you accomplish today that you're proud of? So like today, like I automatically knew it. I just felt good in the gym, and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for 135. And I did. And then I just sat there for a minute and was like, what am I doing? I'm not even an athlete. Like, why am I doing this? But like every day, it's been nice to kind of like think about it and be like, cool. Like, I did that. I'm very proud of myself for doing it. And like, that's how I like to end my days now. But I also realize, like, I've heard this from other people as well. Like, I'll talk down on myself a lot.
Mm.
And like, I do it, but I also recognize I do it. But also, I'm like, half the stuff I talk down, I don't believe. But like, I understand now, like, as I'm saying it out loud about myself, then other people think that that's how I feel about myself. And I'm like, I probably have a little bit higher confidence in that. But I think it's one of those things where I use it as a deflecting mechanism. So like now I'm trying to get away from that as well, where like if I do something, I'll frame it more in a positive approach.
Yeah.
So that's been definitely new
Yeah.
to really frame your day around that.
Well, so much of the way that you treat yourself and set the expectations for yourself is the way that the universe and others are going to treat you, in my opinion, in my experience, really, not really my opinion, because, you know, you're talking about being self deprecating, and I think you can be you have a comedic spirit, so you can be self deprecating in a comedic way, and everyone understands that it's like, oh, you know, that's Ebony like joking or whatever. But when it becomes like a downplay where other people want to like try you, that's something different. And for me, I have been far more vocal and very direct about who I am, what I deserve, what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate. And it's very period end of discussion for me, because the truth is, in most rooms that I'm walking into, no one in there has the ability to change my life for the
Mm.
better, for the worse, for anything. That power is 100% on me. And so when I take control of that power, then it is very powerful, but it's very off putting to people. But I would rather it be something where people feel slightly uncomfortable by how much agency I have over self than get it twisted where I'm expending energy having to check people.
That's true. That's true. I feel like most rooms I walk into, no one looks like me.
Same.
That's pretty much my experience of
like,
a lot of things.
same, child, same.
A lot of the time. So it's also like I can't really be that person because now I had to represent, even though no one else has to represent anything else in this room. Somehow I had to represent 3 different things. So that's super fun. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that it's like, what is it? The bat. What would Big Mama say? The Lord only gives its toughest battles to the strongest soldiers or something like that. It's like, we built for this. Like, we are. That's been our entire lives, that you were walking into rooms that we are the only ones who look like us or are representing a certain demographic of the population, even if everyone else looks like us. So there's always this like othering, but it's also the ownership of what makes you unique.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you look great.
Thank you. I think I'm glowing.
Yeah, you are glowing. You are glowing. So this would be the time that I'm wondering, because this is going to seem so silly, and I've said it before on the podcast, but when I was really making big changes in my life, and I'm making big changes in my life now anyway. I'm trying to grow life. And
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, share more about my IVF journey. I've had some very successful results that I'm very excited to share more about. Yes, thank you. But I would always measure where I started and how far I had gotten by the length of my hair. Because I did the big chop, and like it wasn't the big chop to scalp, but like my hair was very, very short. And so I would think like, oh, by the time that my hair gets to like my ears, then I would have, and I had like a physical goal. So I was working out a lot, and I'm like, all right, I'll be at this weight and this like BMI or whatever. And then by the time that I do this, and by the time that I do that, and one of the last things that I had even considered was by the time that I have a child, my hair will be down to my, like, basically, I was like, my hair will be down to my bra strap. I'm like 2 inches away from that, like, with my straight hair. And I think I'm right on time. So, so yeah. So what do you look at, and what are your barometers for like, okay, in 6 months, in a year, how do you envision that?
Not my hair, but it's gotten so like, long.
Yeah, it has gotten super long.
So try to get that cut. Yeah, as silly as it sounds, if you can actually hear how I sound, it's all about my teeth right now. So
yeah, tell us about that journey.
I'm on this. I'm not gonna name the brand journey to straighten my teeth. So I've had these trays in for for a couple months now. Apparently I'm ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But like, what's cool is my last visit to the dentist, they were like, "You have 2 months before you have to come back," and I was like, "Great." By the time, and I looked at my last tray and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be like straight teeth. I'm about to have a whole grill. I'm gonna be lit." And I'm gonna get a whitening. Oh yeah, it's me popping. I was like, cool. So by the time my teeth are 100% straight, I will also be in I'll be fully transitioned to my new job. Mm-hmm. And I will also, get down to my goal weight and really work towards that. So I was super excited to hear I had 2 months. So I'm like, oh, no, that's perfect. That's the perfect amount of time to get everything I want to get done and kind of have this new phase of life, because getting these in were a really big deal to me because it's something I always wanted to do, but wasn't mature enough to actually go to the dentist and do it. So yeah. I made that big gang. Shout out to FSA. And went for it. But yeah, just being consistently on it and just trying to make sure I have in my mouth 22 hours a day has been great.
But yeah, that's what I'm measuring everything off of right now because I had a year to do it, and as you know, I got them in the same day I moved in the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole point of moving the apartment was just some stabilization, finish school, do all these other things, and the projected finish of it was by the time like a year from having that apartment. So really, just walking through that, it's like okay, it just shows that I'm on the right path of doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
So the next couple months, I guess, and that's like 8 months, are pretty crucial for me in terms of getting all the things I wanted to get done, which is why I settled in Denver for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny because we're talking about like hair and teeth, and that might sound superficial, but it's really not. At least not in like our in my experience and what I'm gathering about your experience either. Because what I needed, it's almost like when you're little and you stand up against the like next to the door, and there's like a little inchworm tape measure where you like mark off, this is at 5 year old, at 5 years old, at 6 years old. Like there's a reason why people do that, because you want to see that growth, is that aesthetic representation of growth. And I think most of the time when you think of how people grow, um, a lot of growth is unseen and it doesn't need to be seen. But when you're looking back on your journey, it is important to like take a step back and be like, damn, like when I was here, I didn't have any of this. And because I put in the work, especially on the hard days, because I was consistent and I put in this work, it's like, yeah, I have come really far. And I can see from like, you know, from my big chop to these whatever is happening with these tight ass curls. They are tight.
Jeez. I can't with you.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, what would you say to yourself a year ago? Like, what have you learned? Just like, what are you thinking about in this moment that you wish you would have told yourself a year ago?
Slow down. Slow down. There's nothing to rush to right now. Like, there's nothing. And I think a year ago, I had it in my mind, like, I was working remote, I was traveling a lot, and I was doing everything I wanted to do. And I was doing it in a way where I thought I had a time limit of when I couldn't do it anymore. So I
Mm.
was traveling, I was going out, I was doing all these things, and it was like, I'm trying to fit it in. But, like, when I slowed down and, like, took a step back, I was like, what was I trying to fit it in for?
Why did you think you had a time limit to do the digital nomad thing?
I think it kind of comes down to like other people's expectations. Like, well, you can't do it forever, and yes, you can do it forever. Don't listen to other people. Like, it was like a lot of like, oh, well, at some point you're gonna have to settle, and you gotta buy a house, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff. And I'm like, I never had a desire to do those things.
Yeah.
Like that's just not something that really interests me at this point right now. Like instead of like buying a house, I'd rather travel and live abroad and do all these things. So I think I was like, I'm gonna give myself this certain amount of time to have as much fun as possible, and then I'm gonna go back to being responsible and get the mortgage and get the car note and do all these things. And
Ah,
it's just like,
ew.
well, I mean, when you look around, also I was around mom and dad a lot. Okay, like
Yeah,
there
but
was a
here,
lot of that
yeah,
outside
but mom and
influence.
dad are very old school, and
Exactly.
there are things that I feel like we're actively teaching them.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's necessary for you to have a mortgage, and I don't think it's necessary for you to have a car in order to be like responsible. I think what I will encourage you to do is figure out what your tax shelter is going to be. Like the tax shelter, but generally, what people don't understand about most home ownership is that is your biggest tax shelter. So if you need a place to live on a consistent basis, which most people do, then home ownership, yes, absolutely. But ultimately, at the root of all of it, it's about having your tax shelter. So if you're not interested in pursuing a lifestyle that some of your friends or circle, feel like, oh, well, eventually you have to do this, like, my pull ain't your pull, like your pull ain't my pull. Yeah, I think I'm glad that we had this conversation. I know in real time, we've both been going through a lot of transitions, and yes, the past few weeks have looked a lot different than everything before it.
For sure.
And there is a steady plan that it's going to continue to be that way, just because this is a season where we're both evolving. I think a lot of people are evolving and finding their way. So I'm super excited for your journey because you really have an opportunity to define your own narrative and define how you want to live your life. I will say, going back to the idea of you like traveling all the time for those 2 years, my only concern was never the concerns about like, oh, you're gonna, you need to like lay down roots. Like to me, I'm not gonna lie, and I know that it might sound harsh because I think people say things with the best intentions, but it feels a little haterish. Like it feels like you are doing what I'm not able to do. It does. It really it does. Like it bothers me that it's like, well, you're gonna have to do this. It's like you don't have to do anything
Yeah.
but be black and die, like you really don't. And as someone who, I did everything later than the rest of my friends. Like we've lived in this home for 5 years, but like my friends have had homes. They've been in their homes for 15, damn near 20 years,
Yeah.
like, and I love that for them, but that was not my life. Like actually I didn't want that, when they wanted all of those things.
That's
So
fair.
I think you have to be like just aware of who you are and what you want. So I'm proud of you for carving out your own path,
Thank you.
my little contrarian.
Thank you. I think.
So okay, we're gonna wrap, but I do want to say to my comeback community, like, first of all, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Ebony and I clearly are sisters, but we're also besties. So it's really great to be able to sit down and have these conversations and be honest and transparent because y'all might be listening in your cars, you might be watching on YouTube, and I really want you to feel like you're a part of these conversations. So if you're going through a transition in your life, if there's something you want to add to the conversation, talk to us. We'd love to hear from you because I think a big part of the comeback community, I think a big part to coming back to self is that it is an accountability game. Like if you don't have anyone else, like a village to hold you accountable, we don't really get anywhere by ourselves, even if we are moving a little bit more in solitude. Like there's always like a support system there that helps along the way. So I would appreciate that conversation. You want to add anything, Eb?
I feel like we should call this like second floor of Meyer Road. Like we're just inviting people into the room, into our rooms.
They're in our bedroom.
In our bedrooms from our childhood.
Yeah, like
the second floor of Meyer Road.
like that works. That works. Probably won't use that, but
All right, cool. First shot. I'll work with it.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Well, Eb, I appreciate you being very transparent today.
Thank you.
And deciding what we were going to talk about. I think this was really great group therapy.
It's so much cheaper.
Therapy. Yeah. You're still seeing your therapist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay,
She's
yeah.
expensive. I mean, I gotta go everything.
I know. I'm seeing mine too. Shout out to Mia. Love you. Oh wait, I can't say that. We're not friends. She's my therapist.
Isn't that weird? Man, my therapist was like, I got a relationship. I was like, you're dating somebody? Why didn't you tell me? Like, you! We've been talking about me this entire time. What? Why didn't you tell me what's going on in your life, girl? What?
My therapist went on vacation, and I was like, "Oh, where did you go?" Like, what? And she's like,
Just the way they hit you. I had my therapist once be like, very clearly, we are not friends. I am not one of your friends. And I was like, oh, okay. That's like we've known each other for years. Like, I mean, you know everything about me. I just kind of expected, some type of like, I don't know, mutual relationship, but okay.
Seriously.
All right.
Seriously, it's like, this does not feel reciprocal,
It
okay?
just doesn't.
I
Like,
want to know what your husband said when he came home this, like, I told you what my husband said.
I just was hurt. I was like, I didn't even know you were in a relationship. That was crazy. Like, you just gave, oh man, whatever. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Oh my
a whole
gosh. On
different
that
story.
note, make sure that if you're listening on the podcast, that you check us out on YouTube. Come Back with Erica Cobb. If you're on YouTube, listen to us on the podcast. We're available on anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. Of course, follow me on social media at Erica Cobb on all platforms. And you can always visit my online home, comeback.tv. And hey, I still have a few of those Erica Cobb by Angel Aesthetics skin
Ooh.
kits. So make sure you get on it because once they are gone, they are gone. And the link is in the bio of my social media. So until next time, thanks for joining us.